Hey, everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
And I almost said I'm Paul there for a second. We are here to talk to you about Dune 2, and thank you, Brian, for getting it in there nice and early in the chat. Dune with the O's. Dune 2. So, Dune Part 2. Why are we talking about it? Everybody's talking about it. We're not doing the full review. We're not doing the gushing love that we did for the first film, because we were ahead of the game on the first film. We did lots of great content because Paul knows his onions on the whole Herbert books, etc. And I happen to, along with Paul, know some of my onions and spuds when it comes to cinema stuff. So we had great fun back then.
So we merged the two.
Exactly. And really, I think the thing that we're conscious of that maybe not a lot of people are talking about is not the importance of this film artistically, or even just to franchises or sci-fi or any of that kind of stuff. But there's also a bigger impact that it'll have on the future of cinema. And we're going to tell you why. But we'll also talk about whether or not we like the film, just in case you're curious. So welcome, everybody. I can see more of you joining. Good morning, Lisa. Paul, it's fair to say that you liked the first movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's fair to say that
Are we talking about the David Lynch one from 1980s?
Sorry. The first Denis Villeneuve, Dune Part 1 as it'll be known now.
Yeah. No, it was an enjoyable adaptation.
Yeah. And I particularly gushed over it because I got to see it in premium format. I got to see it in IMAX. Like I famously said, and probably cost us a few viewers because of my choice of language, I came out with sand in the crack of my ass. I felt like I'd been to Arrakis, and it was great. The second movie, Paul, Part 2, had a lot to live up to.
Yeah. It was a big ask for it, especially since a lot of people didn't know. Like, one of the biggest asks from us was the fact when you went to the first one, a lot of people didn't know that it was actually one half of the movie.
There was a bit of a grumble as it ended. All right, and they're like, huh? What? What? Cliffhanger? What?
Yeah. So, like, already the expectations for the second one was already quite big. Which is because I don't think a lot of people knew it was coming. Secondly, Dune Part 2 or Part 1 did so well in the cinemas, which is, I think it blew everybody from like an artistic. I still hear people loving the Sardaukar kind of like ritual, kind of like, you know, kind of like everybody loves that. The soundscape for the entire movie made, I think, Part 2 have such a... Everybody was really kind of like predicting about how well it was going to do and stuff. So,
but here's the thing: people forget. Everybody remembers that first movie, visually stunning, feast for the ears, music, sound, the whole everything that came out as an utterance from speakers, perfect. Lots of great performances, not all perfect performances, but lots of great performances. But essentially, we were the Denis Villeneuve fan club. The man made a great movie. But it was closer to the darkest timeline than we remember. It came out day and date. It went into a cinema and also went onto a streaming service in the same day, which was absolute bullcrap. And thankfully, we didn't have to worry about that this time. But my worry, Paul, and it's worth reminding everybody, because a lot of people watching us will be of like mind. A lot of people will be very much predisposed to see something like this, be you sci-fi fans or just specifically for, maybe you read the Frank Herbert, whatever it was. But this is a broad appeal movie, but it's not the broadest appeal. You're not talking a blockbuster for everybody. And I think that's something that, this gets compared to Star Wars a lot, but I think this, one of the only apt comparisons with Star Wars is exactly that. This is sci-fi. But it's well done sci-fi that can get everybody into it. And that's the key difference. The first movie proved that they weren't messing around. The first movie also proved that you could sit through patiently and have a, like you say, a cliffhanger ending where it didn't end the story, but you still got great value for money. I think this movie pays off a lot. But it's also getting paid, Paul. It's making the money. And I suppose that's what we better start moving towards. So I'm going to take us on a little trip into the boring world of charts and graphs. Everybody out there excited? How many viewers did we just lose? All of them, possibly?
No.
What I'm putting on screen right now and this isn't going to be a PowerPoint presentation for everybody who just got off work or is watching this during work. Fair play to you. This is one of those things that it's not going to get super nerdy and boring. But what you can see on screen, represented by those lines, and the blue line is the one that's important, and I'll do a much bigger version in a second. This is the last 10 years. The last 10 years of box office, essentially. So I took the top 20 box office, and it's only the top 20 for each year, aggregated them, and said, right, this is what it looks like on a graph. As you can see, 2023 or 2013, 2014, then nice big bump, 2015. It's all moving up the way. We had, just before COVID, talk about hitting highs in 2018 and 2019. Then obviously the darkest timeline happens, and we were all worried that it was going to kill cinema. Now, what does cinemas need to keep going? They need money, Paul.
Yeah, like that was the most interesting. You can tell when the graph goes up, it's also around the time when like the Marvel kind of franchise was really, really getting to its crescendo of phases. So like, you know, these are the $1 billion movies kind of thing. It became more regular that, like, you know, the event movies and stuff like that, the kind of like, you know, summer blockbusters and stuff like that were really kind of hitting the marks with $1 billion international and domestic box office in the US kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, then we hit darkest timeline, and everything bombed. And yeah, on the Dune part, we saw that Tenet got hit real bad with the whole like releasing. It was like one of the first movies that got released when coming out of the first lockdown.
Yeah.
And Dune, you'll see in many of the videos around that time me complaining about the fact that Dune keeps getting pushed back, which I'm really happy they did. I said they did release but it got pushed into the era where HBO then announced we're gonna do cinema release and streaming release at the same time kind of period, which was just awful. But yeah, so after the darkest timelines, we start building up again, right, Patrick?
Yes, indeed. And here's the thing, Paul. That top line is worldwide. The yellow is what I'm referring to as international. This is quite US centric, I know, but US box office is significant for the world. So the red line is the US. Yellow line is everybody else. Blue is both together. Now, I think I have a bigger. See, there's nothing. Look at that. You can't even see me and you right now, Paul, as you'll see in your refresh in a moment. Is there anything better than a graph, than a bigger graph? And I saw in there, will there be pie charts? No, there won't, because I'm hungry. I fear the pie chart, because then you will hear the grumble. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over. I'm going to swap over to one that's a little bit zoomed in and has taken March, up until today, out of it. So if you take the start of 2023, so that takes the final big dip out of it. There's a trend line there, Paul. And over 10 years, the trend line is going down. Whereas prior to that, you could have jumped a car a la, Knight Rider or Dukes of Hazzard on the trend line that was going up the way. Why is that significant? And if this works, I will hopefully be able to actually show you why it's important. Yay, it did work. Over here on Box Office Mojo, by the way, thank you very much, IMDb, for supplying such a wonderful thing. I'm going to go back to 2013, and I'm going to talk into the microphone. Back in 2013, when it finally refreshes. Look at that, Frozen, Iron Man 3, Marvel were making money back then. It's not just about how many billion-dollar movies there were at the top. It's about, look at how far you have to go down before you get into the 500s. You're out of the top 10. That's the key thing. Everybody knows that Marvel did well, and that stole a lot of the spotlight. But lots of franchises and non-franchises were doing well too. I'd pick a year between 2013 and 2018, just at random, Paul.
2016.
2016. And refresh. Okay, now we're up to 4 billion-dollar movies. But look at, of those billion-dollar movies, Finding Dory's a sequel, Zootopia. You've got lots of stuff here that isn't just, the narrative of superhero stuff or sci-fi or niche or whatever. And then you get into places like 2018, which I think is billion-dollar movies halfway down the list. Again, way down here, even these lower ranked outside the top 10, you're still talking, 600 million plus worldwide. Why does all this matter? Well, let's have a little look at today. There's our topic du jour right at the top. Amazingly enough, Beekeeper is behind it. And I think that's all you need to hear. Beekeeper is featuring in the top right now, the at the top of the conversation. Everybody thought last year cinema made a comeback because, oh yeah, we've got, what have we got? Let's see. Super Mario Brothers made an absolute fortune. Barbenheimer, what a weird phenomenon that was. And there's two movies that egged each other on to higher and higher performance. And that was it. Oh yeah, cinema's back. No need to worry. Financially, everybody's stable. It's all great. It's only the strikes that we have to worry about. Well, no. Because most people who are reading and watching the trades for the last 3-4 months, the doom and gloom that is predicted for this year and the falling off a cliff that was predicted, thanks to the Madam Webs, actually just name a movie that's come out so far this year. They've all pretty much underperformed. There are a few exceptions, but nothing is performing. The Marvels didn't do its thing. Guardians of the Galaxy last year was the last high box office point for any real comic-related property. Everything else has been well below. You're talking not making $200 million worldwide. Yeah. Like that's, I'd love 200 million, but Paul, that's not Marvel money.
No, it's not. No, the Marvel films, as we said, kind of repeatedly as well. We've seen just a downward trend of the quality and quantity of the ones that are coming out now. I guess the quantity probably is a good part of it, since the quality of them have been going down. But yeah, you're right. Recently, and I saw that Brew also said that don't years start off slower. It's like they do, because they're around the kind of Oscar kind of part and stuff like that. And when we hit the summers, that's when we get the blockbusters and stuff like that. But back kind of like before the Darkest Timeline, you had essentially 2 or 3 movie blockbuster coming out throughout the year, and that included pretty much around this period, this quarter, like 1 or 2 would come out and kind of things because they wanted to get in for the Oscars, or they were released in festivals, which goes in the like October, September kind of region, and then they wanted to kind of release them for general kind of population, for to get the hype up and everything like that. So like we actually have quite a large amount of like items that get released around the start of the year, because of the Oscars and other kind of award shows. So yes, it is slow, but it's especially now. But that's because of essentially the downward turn in the cinema kind of going audience.
Yeah.
Especially now, kind of thing. So,
and
there's just to kind of answer that, and also go, Marvels aren't doing great at all, kind of thing. And it needs to take a marketing fluke to have 2 movies completely push each other further up. Mario Brothers is such a big. I think Mario Brothers had such a curiosity towards us, because like the only other film of Mario that we had was that awful one where half the Goombas are like weird crocodile.
The Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo one.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think we were morbidly curious about this one kind of thing. I think that's the same, and I think that morbid curiosity will go for the Minecraft movie as well, with Jack Black and a whole bunch of other. You should look up the cast for just that. That is such a weird cast, kind of thing. So like, yeah, it's just the audience is kind of falling off.
And yeah, the slow start, and thanks for taking that question. Also, very quickly, Brian asked, what is Zootopia? Zootopia is an animated film that everybody's forgotten, that did quite well, that it was actually critically well received, and did financial gangbusters, but it's been forgotten, which is interesting, because a lot of digitally animated movies have become quite famous, yet haven't been as successful as it. But Paul, yeah, the start of the year, it used to be you dumped your, we've made a mistake with this movie, let's give it an early February release. Let's just bury it. That used to be the death knell. Then a few movies came along, it changed that. And for a while there, any time of year was a good time of year. Did we even make that video? Because remember, we sketched it out together. There's no longer a dump time of year. You don't dump movies anymore. There is no more dump time.
Yeah, we did do that show where it's just like February. Start of the year was award show movies and dumping your stuff because the award show movies will cover it all up.
Yeah, and Paul, that's what makes Oppenheimer interesting. And I'll fix where Oppenheimer is on screen if I can. What makes Oppenheimer interesting for me is Chris Nolan. You think Chris Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, is Denis Villeneuve, mini Chris Nolan? Is he, getting that kind of heat? Yes, I think he probably is, thanks to this now. And all of his movies have successively made more and more and more and more money. And right now, I'm just going to check my notes. Actually, I should check on screen too. So budget for Dune 165 million, and it actually made worldwide 434 back. So it's in the break-even territory. Made a few shillings, but remember that was also released on streaming. They didn't go crazy with the budget for Dune 2 in comparison. They still did in comparison to realistic money and budgets. 190 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But remember that they're doing something that is internationally famous, and already had the setup. Whereas what was Zack Snyder's thing that we all had to watch at Christmas and go, oh, dear Lord, this is awful? Rebel Moon. Yeah. And that went straight to streaming. And that had, 75 to 85% of the budget of Dune 2. Yeah. So you can make and waste an awful lot of money making rubbish that ends up going straight onto streaming, or you can do what Oppenheimer and what Dune 2 have done. So financially, these are responsible people now. Chris Nolan's not making things to lose money. Either is Denis Villeneuve. Why does it matter? Because we need everybody who puts money into the making movies to think, okay, I can support this. I can support this. I can support a Barbie. I can support a Super Mario. I can support what is probably going to ding. Sorry to say, Oppenheimer is not going to be a $1 billion movie for anybody out there who's still thinking that that's going to happen. It ain't going to happen. Kung Fu Panda's coming out this weekend. It's going to slow its roll. And that's not a bad thing. But it's going to get a whole other crowd of people into the cinemas. And thanks to Dune last weekend, getting everybody excited about the movies, Kung Fu Panda is going to do well too. That's not a bad thing, because it's about getting money into the cinema. And Paul, when you think of what Dune 2 has done, it's made selling out premium theaters, selling out IMAXs and Dolby screens, a normal thing. That's good for theaters because it sends a massive message up the chain. Make theatrical movies that people cannot enjoy as much on streaming. Make proper theatrical releases that you do not want to go, I'll wait till it's on Netflix or I'll wait till it's on HBO Max. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. So we did a show a while back called Is the Blockbuster Dead? Or Is the Blockbuster Over? It was essentially about how the event movie blockbuster kind of thing had spread, with the Marvel universe kind of choosing now multiple times during the year to kind of release its big movies. Other shows, other studios started, and franchises started to jump in as well, where they were just spreading out. Now they're kind of like big box office movies and stuff like that. It's strange to think that now we were like, the blockbuster is dead. We just have great epic movies. Eventually they'll squeeze each other out, and then we'll have to figure out how we kind of like move forward with, every single film being like massively hyped and everything like that. COVID hit us like a truck. Hit the cinema like a truck and stuff like that. Where now it's interesting that we were like, now we want them back. We want the blockbuster back. We because it will save cinema. These are the movies that will get people in seats. Dune Part 2, I went to see over the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, pretty much booked out.
Yeah,
I was trying to find places.
Tuesday, by the way.
To
Paul's point, I was just too slow.
Yeah, I got to see it on Sunday, but it was just every single IMAX, which was just completely sold out practically. And I mean, some of the seats that I wouldn't even put my worst enemies in.
Yeah, the seats you wouldn't put your coat on. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, we're all sold out and stuff like that. I would I've never been so hot in a cinema because of the amount of bodies in there. I actually felt like I was on Arrakis. But yeah, no, it's these kind of movies, the big blockbuster movies that either are showpieces for the eyes and ears and stuff like that, like Dune Part Two, and movies that have our interest, the kind of things that we want to see on cinema screens, or as soon as possible. That's the other thing, as soon as possible. And if the only way that we can see them as soon as possible is in the cinema, we'll go to the cinema. So
Exactly.
streaming needs to slow itself down, which a lot of companies are now trying to do. They're kind of going back on themselves because they've realized they're not making the money back on these films through streaming. We've talked about, there's plenty of other of our videos where we talked about how streaming is kind of slowing down a lot as the monopolies are kind of like now adjusting positions and stuff like that with each other, and they're realizing it's not as profitable now. So cinema is where you make your money, which is, so this is where we're going to have to go for now. And studios need to recognize this, make good movies, blockbuster movies, nice movies, like, you know, that audiences want to see as soon as possible. You know, if you build it, they will come.
Absolutely. And Paul, the next $1 billion movie this year is pretty much, I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds together are going to be able to stand in front of a jackpot logo themselves with money just shooting out of it. Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, is going to make money. I hope it's wonderful. But even if it's mediocre, it's going to make bags and bags of cash. And again, how does that come back to Dune? Why is it a good thing that something like Dune Part 2? It's part 2 of a movie that everybody knew was a real commitment and got a disappointment at the end of, that they then had to go and sit for a very long time through a very long movie that isn't, you know, it's not an easy watch for somebody who just doesn't care. Yet it got so many people involved. It's not just hardcore sci-fi people. I saw people at my showing that I promise you, since way before COVID, it was probably some of these people, the first time they were back in a theater, first time they were back in a cinema. And that's the thing. Brian, you mentioned, you know, the window between theatrical release and streaming should be longer. I 100% agree. But we're probably not going to change the minds of the people, particularly at Universal with their stupid 17 and 19-day window that they want to try for. But cinema is a habit. And this is the thing. If you can start getting people in to say, hey, I'm used to going to the cinema because there are enough films dotted throughout the year that are genuinely premium format, which means lots of money for the right people and the theaters, but worth premium format, worth the Dolby screen, worth the IMAX, worth seeing outside of my home and in one of the good expensive screens. Not just because 3D, the gimmick, is making me go, but because this is a theatrical release. That builds a habit so that people will be like, is there anything massive on in the cinema this weekend? No. Okay, but still, you know, will we go? Will we go and see Kumail Nanjiani has The Big Sick? You know, a film that I went to the cinema and watched with 4 other people at a time when I was thinking, cinema's supposed to be on its way back. That was a marketing failure. There are less and less marketing failures now, as Barbenheimer proved. I think if we can get, and this may be the start that will have sent the message, if you can get this kind of money and Dune 2 makes, you know, let's say 600 million plus, once it starts making it to the 7s even, maybe even towards the 8s, and the money men and women out there look at it and go, hang on, premium formats made us a ton. It's not just regular screens. We're selling out the stuff that we find hard to sell out because it's more expensive. And a bad seat in an IMAX is actually worse than a bad seat in a lot of other cinemas where you're like, well, all the seats in here are bad because it's a glorified TV. It's screen 25 in my local Cineplex. It's opening the door that things like Deadpool's going to wedge even further open. And that means we will get smaller films being raised by the tide. It's going to mean more things will be greenlit for the theater. It's going to mean that financial model that we keep pushing of put it on streaming. Even if you're going to put it on streaming 3 weeks later, put it in the cinema first. Because then, no matter what you do, you're watching a cinema movie on your streaming service. No more of this Zack Snyder kind of, we get a big name, we're going to create Star Wars, it's only going to be on our streaming service. it will, number one, you didn't. You failed. But even if you've succeeded, put it in the cinema first anyway. Make money there. It'll still bring subscribers to your service that you're the one that had the good big theatrical movies. And I think this is the turning point. I think we'll be able to look back and go, Denis Villeneuve, you've just earned your seat at the big boy table, not just from a talent point of view. I think Arrival and other things proved that. Financially, you can now swing with the big hitters.
Yeah, I think that's true. Which is, I do think that this will be the tide change in a lot of things. I think we'll probably see one of our first grouping of maybe $1 billion movies since the downturn, which was this year. I do think that probably the best one is probably going to be, I think Dune is already from yesterday. I heard that it got to about 500,000 or 500 million box domestic and international already. Those numbers are soft because like anyone who gives you a rounded number is soft. So I'll be interested to see it. I think Kung Fu Panda is going to be a good one because we haven't had a Kung Fu Panda in years, and that has a lot of kind of fan base that's like I'm a fan, which there's a couple of fans in the chat as well. So like,
of course,
I'd be interested to see more from them.
And Jack Black brings bank. Jack Black knows how to promote a movie. He brings people to theaters.
Borderlands, I think people are going to go watch that film because people like the franchise and also morbid curiosity about what they're going to do with it, because Borderlands has been around the game has been around for quite a long time, and so I'll be interested to see how kind of like people enjoy that. But yeah, I do think this year we'll have the first couple of $1 billion movies back, kind of thing, and this will be the rise of the tide.
Well, back to that, I'll just share it while you're talking, Paul, because on screen is 2019, where all the way down to the 9th position were $1 billion movies. And now we're talking any given year in the last while, it's been, can we get one on the charts?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's Dune Part 3 or Dune 3, Dune the Messiah or Messiah, has also been a greenlit. So like,
and Denis Villeneuve's going to be part of it. That's his last, according to him. So he's going to be part of it, and that's a big deal. Getting him to say, "Yeah, I'm on for this."
Yeah. So like, I do think we're gonna have a cool upturn. So it's gonna be fun.
Paul, I think we're going to run to a break. I want to maybe just with a few minutes, with 60 seconds or so, just check some more of the comments, if that's okay. Arrival is so wonderful. There's never a bad time to say that. You're damn right. Arrival is wonderful. Again, Denis Villeneuve, criminally overlooked for all the good things that he's done and is now continuing to do. Entice people to say, sorry, I covered that one.
A couple looks at the cost of 2 cinema tickets and think this is a month of a streaming service. I disagree in certain ways because you can get loyalty things that will allow you to go to, like, you know, and I understand the laziness of having to leave your house and go to a cinema, but think about what you're paying for. Sound system is amazing, the screening is amazing, and then just the event. Going to the cinema is an enjoyable time. So,
look, I get that there's a cost to it, but again, it's, you know, it's cost versus experience. It's like you can eat at home or you can go to a restaurant. People still go to restaurants. And that's a complex equation. In fact, Paul, it's a good time. I'm just going to catch Column's one here. Cinema is also part of an experience you won't get in streaming. Damn right. Just come back, because we'll be back in about 30 seconds after this ad, because we've got to tell you a horror story about what one cinema chain has done to try and gouge money out of people for Dune. Join us, because we're probably going to curse and scream. We'll be right back. Before there was Stranger Things. Before there was Chris Pine. There was Homebrew Quest. Hang on, that doesn't make any sense. Let me start again. YouTube is great for watching Hear Us Out, but what if you'd like a bit of D&D in your life? Homebrew Quest are a bunch of brilliantly creative Irish folks playing a homebrew Dungeons & Dragons campaign inspired by Irish mythology. But even more inspired by the brews they're drinking in each episode. Ireland's supposed to be the land of saints and scholars, but it's also got drinkers and YouTubers, one of which might look a tad familiar. So get yourself over to Homebrew Quest and join the adventure. Links in the description down below, or search term Homebrew Quest. Tell them Hear Us Out sent you. And welcome back. That was... I'm not even going to say what that was an advertisement for. That was an advertisement for Paul's other YouTube family. Not us, people. Not us. No, the others. Respect to everybody at Homebrew. Your search term, Homebrew Quest. Get it into your YouTube search bar. Then you go and you hit subscribe. And your work will be done for the day. You can sit back and watch some cool D&D and drinks with Paul and a bunch of very talented people. Now, Paul teased everybody on the other side just before the ads. Holy crap. Yeah. Nothing makes me more angry than... And shout out to John Campea and his show for covering this. We've talked about how much we love theaters and cinema, and it's a regular occurrence that we're talking about how we want it to come back. But cinema chains have to help them, help themselves. Help us help them, to give a Jerry Maguire to it. The largest theatre chain, which represents, I think, about 75% of all theatres in Canada, pulled a move. So there's a lot of places where they're your only option to go and see things. They pulled a move when they realised, okay, Dune 2's doing really well. Look at all the tickets we're selling. Let's raise the prices. Let's raise the prices for that movie.
Yeah.
Paul, I'll let you go first because I'm really pissed off.
Yeah, so, okay. From a financial point of view, you need to understand the economics, I guess, of the cinema kind of system, which is, for first part of the time, the cinema or the movie studio gets the majority of the shares, and as time goes on, the cinema gets more and more and more. It has been tradition that that is why popcorn and drinks are so ridiculously expensive. That's where they make their money. And as time goes on, the movie percentage of how much they make from the ticket sales goes towards them and stuff like that. This is such an underhanded kind of way of the cinema making more money, because I bet you that this studio didn't have any... They didn't hear anything about this kind of thing.
The agreement that you're talking about, that was tradition, but so many of these places have, and along with distributors, have now been working a 50-50 split. And I would guarantee you that these guys are on a 50-50 split. What we make it from the start, 50% to the studios, 50% to us, which I'm all for. Great deal if you can make it, but not a great deal if you start gouging and you start keeping the extra for yourself. Paul, do you think when Madam Web was absolutely cacking itself and just falling all over the place in theaters, do you think they thought, oh, I know what we'll do, we'll reduce the prices? No, they didn't. No. It didn't work in that direction.
No.
Get your heads out of your asses. The reason we're so big on cinema is because it's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful place to go. It's why I tell people, I understand it's expensive. Lots of things are expensive. I'm okay with spending my money on it because it's so important. If it's too expensive for you, if you're pirating movies and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to judge you. But it's not going to be for me because this is something I care passionately about. It's why when I go to the cinema, I buy their food. I could bring my own. I own a big coat. I could fit a lot of stuff in there. But I'm trying to support them. But crikey, do they have to cop on and realize that they have got to make a better experience. And they have got to start, once you get people in, when Denis Villeneuve and a massive cast of brilliant people and geniuses behind the scenes make a great movie and a marketing department doesn't fluff the ball and gets it right and gets punters through your door and into your big premium screens, make it a good experience. Make it clean. Make it friendly. Make it work. Do not just go, I'm going to make it profitable and I'm going to gouge you a little bit now. To that I say... spoiler warning on bad language, fuck you, cinema chains that do that kind of shit.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is that, the cinema is expensive. It's for the event. We're happy to pay for it and stuff like that. If you are pirating and stuff like that, you can't also be surprised that cinema and movies suddenly disappear because you're not in any way helping finance them and stuff like that. So, you know, um, but yeah, like we're all here trying to support the cinema, and then to have them turn around and just be like, yeah, we're gonna do an underhanded kind of way. It's just like you're not helping. Like it just now you've got a you've got a rep for doing that. So like, and I know that you got like you're gonna be like, we have a captive audience. It's like, yeah, but streaming services make that your captive audience not as captive as like you think, because like if the movie's gonna turn up on a streaming service 3 weeks after it's being released, then all they have to do is just wait 3 weeks. Like,
Yep.
and people are, as we've seen in the thing, money talks. So like they'll be like, yeah, I'll keep my money away from that company.
Yeah.
And just pay for a streaming service. So look, I think it was a stupid idea. Like overall, I think it was a stupid idea. I think whoever did it, whoever the big wig person who was just like, I've got a clever idea, should be fired out of a cannon into a wall.
Yep.
Which was every other cinema should take note. Every franchise should take note that this isn't the way to do it. Your publicity is going to be way worse, kind of thing.
Yep.
Even if you're the only cinema in 1,000 miles of some of an area, don't do it. Kind of thing, because captive audiences are not enough. Like, you don't have a gun to their head, so
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to force them into the cinema with streaming services. So,
Paul, here's a crazy idea. I understand financially times have been tough, but how about you take a long view on getting people back to cinemas, then keeping them there? You need the good movies, so that's on studios and creatives. But once, and they are giving good movies, start giving a good cinema experience. Then more people will come. And you know what? Back in 2019, if the Darkest Timeline hadn't happened, we'd be sitting here talking about, you know what? F you cinemas for not reducing prices. You're still with so many, top 20 films, all billion-dollar movies. Yet your overheads haven't changed. You're not upgrading your screens. You're not doing these things. We could be having a big other complaint.
yeah.
Because it's not in anybody's nature to say, you know what we should do? Actually, we should start reducing prices, because we've worked out the financial model here is we've got to kill the narrative. It's expensive to go to the cinema, because then people will stop pirating. They will go. They won't wait till streaming. It'll become a reasonable and equitable thing for all. You will sell more to more, make the same, and possibly long term be more sustainable and make even more money. It's pretty simple. But much like politics, nobody wants to know what tomorrow is, because they're worried about what money they're going to make today, because tomorrow it might be somebody else's job. I won't go on the rant any further, Paul, but to say that any cinema chain that pulls something like that here, I will go and protest in a physical and open way, and I will record it, and it can be on this channel. It'll probably need some parts to be blurred out. I'm not saying it could be naked. It'd be more the finger, or hand gestures. Maybe it'd be naked, draw more attention and possibly make passersby quite ill.
I think just the people from the chat before we kind of move on
please.
to kind of other things, was just or did it backfire? Yeah, it did. It's now been covered by several YouTube channels and stuff like that are big on movies. So which is including us. We're also translated. And yeah, it is going to backfire in the long run. When you've got now it opened out into kind of it's gone viral in the sense of kind of like, now people know that cinema chain does this kind of stuff. It's just like, which makes people question, did they do it for like it's already going backwards.
Yeah.
In the sense of, did they do this for Barbenheimer? Kind of thing. Because they like that kind of stuff. So like because Patrick actually told me, like, just before the thing, and I quickly looked it up. People are already asking the question, are there other big movies in the last couple of months that, or like, in the past year, have they done that for?
Well, it's not like they advertised it. It's like, oh, by the way, this is doing really, really well, so we're adding a couple of bucks. They just bumped a price and thought, yeah, people want to see it. They're going to think, oh, was the cinema always like $19 instead of $17? They're just assuming people are like, you have a want, we'll take your money. Because they're evil, and they should be Slapped. Sorry.
So anyway,
do you want to talk about the movie
two?
for a second, Paul? Do you want to talk about the movie?
I do.
Good. Because me and Paul haven't talked about whether or not we like the movie. I'm gonna start, Paul, by throwing up your namesake. Little do people realize that you're not named after anything to do with Dune, but Paul Atreides was named after you. Paul from Heroes Out. That's time machines were involved, but it happened. Believe.
I am the.
Go for it.
I am the Quizak Haderach.
Ooh. See, I love that I'm going to mispronounce the Bene Gesserit or something like that in a moment, and it's going to bug you, and I apologize in advance. Paul Atreides, Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet is a movie star.
Mm-hmm.
He just is. You know, we were talking about our blockbusters dead, our movie stars dead. Timothy Chalamet is, as classically as you can now put it, he is a movie star. He's crossed that boundary. You know, he's making money off Wonka. Wonka quietly raking in the cash. Another Timothy Chalamet movie. Don't go to the Scottish Willy Wonka experience, apparently, for any of you following pop culture.
Yeah, Scotland's maybe not the most equitable place to go for seeing a Wonka experience.
Yeah, unless Timothy Chalamet is going to be there, don't go. The thing is, whether you like him or, and I see Lisa says really, and I think that means movie star for I don't love all movie stars. It's not a criteria that I can decide based on my, as Jude Law proved many years ago, being a good actor who for some reason I don't like, and I can't put my finger on it. I still have to say he's a good actor. Timothy Chalamet, movie star, by box office, by popularity, by social media, and honestly, for me, Paul, I really liked Dune Part 1. I really liked Dune Part 2. I don't know if I liked it as much as everybody else, but I wasn't having a particularly good day, so I'm going to have to see it a second time. But I will say, and we talked about this privately last week, we were both worried that Timothy Chalamet wouldn't be able to pull this off. For me, he did. What about you?
Yeah, that was our biggest worry because in the first movie, which was he didn't give an air of kind of like what the character should have been physically, and he was a little bit more meeker in areas where in the book and in the other kind of adaptations, he was a little bit more kind of forceful. So we were worried that he's going to have to be in charge of a gigantic army of essentially, you know, best fighters in the universe kind of thing, and he's going to have to portray a lot of kind of leadership and control and the ability to do kind of like, you know, essentially like, you know, just showing that he's a leader of the Fremen. And we were very much just like, oh, I don't know how well that's going to go kind of thing. There is a scene in Part 2 that pulls it off.
And I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah. So we won't give spoilers, but he was a good character in the film in Part 2, which is building up to essentially him kind of taking more control, which is as the progression goes. There is a scene in which he does. I will say that as much as I'm kind of like Timothy Chalamet is not really kind of like my bag, you know, kind of thing. That did sell me kind of going, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we're in this now, I guess, with Paul. He's still not physically saying, but his control at that point, his body language and kind of I guess the
way he carried himself. Yeah,
the acting and stuff like that was quite good about that kind of period of time and stuff like that. So yeah, I enjoyed him. He eventually carried a movie after that kind of thing. And I think it's a natural progression for the character in this view of the material. So,
and the reason I asked you about him first before asking for your general thoughts on the movie is because I knew it was our concern, you know, behind the scenes. No matter how beautiful and how wonderfully this film looked, sounded, smelled, or tasted, if he hadn't been able to, if he'd failed, the movie would have failed. So fair play, absolutely fair play. Now, I'm not saying it's the best performance I've ever seen.
No.
but he did what needed to be done, and in a movie of this scale, and with this cast, which I think we'll go on to maybe in a second, he held his own, which at the very least is impressive. So, Paul, what did you think of the movie overall? What's your general impression?
I liked it. It is once again someone's adaptation kind of thing, because they focus a little bit more on certain areas within the material than maybe the book does, which is fine. I enjoyed the fact that Donu like decided to take a little aspect of the kind of material, decided to focus on it more, kind of thing, and decided to make that a little bit more of the story kind of thing. I do like the conflict of Paul Atreides kind of choice, like overall. So let's go through cast. Amazing. Pretty much everybody is really really good. Which goes like Butler is creepy as with South Raga, which is really weird kind of thing, because in the book he's meant to be like gorgeous.
Would you mind pausing on the Harkonnen just for a moment so that we can talk about them and then the rest of the cast? Because Austin Butler isn't Elvis anymore. Talk about a great way to break from the Elvis voice. Mm-hmm. Nice, great bit of casting for him. The role worked for me. I understand maybe not as faithful as it should be, but talk about setting up somebody as evil. His introductory scene worked very well.
Yeah, that's the kind of so. I will say that all of the Harkonnens, all the villains in this have been great, because like I've been like, ooh, I'll accept it because this is an adaptation, and then immediately have just enjoyed the character, kind of thing. The Baron with Skarsgård has been incredible. Which is Raban, Dave Bautista's character has been incredible. He's the beast. Salsraga, yeah, geez. Way to turn a character kind of like, yeah, he's meant to be beautiful and charismatic and stuff like that into like, I am charismatic, but I will kill you. Really, really well. He's a schemer. He's really, really deadly kind of character. And I do think that Butler has broken away from his kind of I think this and Masters of the Sky has really helped him break away from maybe some bad smelling kind of other things. But yeah, it was a fun movie. Fun villains to
and that throws to the rest of the cast. Obviously, and if we can keep Zendaya and Co just to last, and back to Chalamet. Paul, on screen right now there is Austin Butler again, because I think it was a wonderful performance. I think he stole some scenes. Christopher Walken, not a huge amount of screen time, but he's Christopher Walken. Anybody want to argue with that?
Christopher Walken was the weakest part of the movie. Like, not him himself. I point out that Christopher Walken did a lot with the role. There just didn't have enough time to really kind of bring in the Emperor that much kind of thing, which is a pity. Because I think Christopher Walken definitely feels, or the Emperor feels like a very kind of like, side character in the whole thing, even though he is the perpetrator of pretty much the whole thing. Christopher Walken does well with this as much as he can.
He was given so little. I think he did all right. Also, it's Christopher Walken,
Yeah, it's fun to see him.
If you're gonna, because I agree with you, such a pivotal character to the story, given such kind of short shrift, I'm really glad that they cast somebody as impactful as him. But then Florence Pugh. For me, Florence Pugh, again, minimal time. But I'm a fan, so I may be biased, but I think she held the camera. Anytime she was on screen, it worked for me, because there was that Florence Pugh magic of, I actually believe she is this person. How did she work for you? Less so?
It's annoying to see her in this movie, in the sense that she's just Irulan is really important, pivotal character to the next movie. Mm-hmm. Florence Pugh is amazing. I love her. Anytime she's in a movie now, I've just gone like, more than likely it's just going to be her. At least her performance is going to be fun and amazing and stuff like that. I'm going to really enjoy the characters that she portrays. In this, same thing. It was just it's like one of those things where I'm getting annoyed now, where I'm just like, like you can just bank on her. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
kind of thing where it's just like, because immediately when I was just like Florence, when I heard that Florence Pugh was going to be playing Erlan, I was just like, amazing, great casting. That's going to be perfect. She's going to be amazing, which was character in the movie. So I just loved it. So
Yeah, yeah, she has yet to do a whole lot wrong. Rebecca Ferguson, I don't know if I completely enjoyed the performance as much as maybe the first movie. She had obviously a lot more to do here. I don't know. I'm looking forward to my second watch because there's one little niggle in the back of my mind. I'm wondering, was it writing or was it her that just the connection was broken a few times? Could have just been me. So what's your objective view there?
part one, she stole the show.
Mm.
Part two, they're turning her and many like her into more sinister characters, kind of thing. And I think that's a real focus point for the new is the Benny Gesserit kind of side of
Yeah.
things. And I think as her part in that, I think she becomes a lot more of a sinister character in this. Um, Rebecca is amazing actress, which goes portraying Jessica in this I really enjoyed and stuff like that. I'm not a fan of how sinister the character has been made, but overall for the story, definitely enjoyed it. It was perfect. It definitely it told me why it was happening and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and it was there. Also, just as far as storytelling goes, there was a great amount of my favorite phrase: "Show don't tell." You know, their exposition was correctly handled. And again, the reason we're talking about cast and it's just killer after this murderers row. It's a stacked cast with already talented people. There's not a whole lot of breakout performances here where it's like, oh, never heard of them. I think Josh Brolin brought the best Josh Brolin that Josh Brolin could ever bring. I thought he was as he always is to me. It's like, that's Josh Brolin. And I'm not saying he acts the same way the whole time, but you believe when he plays earnest, you believe he's earnest. When he plays angry, you believe the character is angry. He disappears, but in a very Josh Brolin kind of way. In that kind of, I can imagine him kicking sand and going, I don't know if I like it around here. He's got that for me. So I'm calling out my bias. Paul, I thought he did well with what he was given and enhanced the movie for me. I don't know if there's any issues with how they treated the character or his performance from your point of view.
no, Gunnar Halleck was just that's pretty much what happens in the later parts of the books. There's a little bit more kind of, I guess, combat thing. He becomes essentially a secondary Stilgar in a combat kind of in the combat kind of side of things. But yeah, the character has a lot more to do with the start of the material, which he did in part one.
Mm-hmm.
In part two, it's a period of time in which kind of spreads, so he's kind of left hanging, and so they did well with the character. His best scene coincides with Timothy Chalamet's best scene, kind of thing. So I do have to say that was enjoyable. But there's not a lot there right now. There'll be more in the next movie, kind of thing. But Gunny Halleck is also an enjoyable character to have.
And then saving for me, the best and last, Javier Bardem. It's very easy to forget he's a great actor. And I watched this and I absolutely was like, brilliant. Finally, he's not in something that's crap. Because I've worked it out. Why have I lost all my faith that he knew how to act? It's because I think he was doing way too many really stupid and bad roles. And I think a lot of people didn't know what to do with him after No Country for Old Men. I think he's been woefully miscast over the years. And I think this is one of those times where he really showed, oh god, yeah, he's a magnetic actor. He can be charming and funny as a religious zealot, which is hard to do, Paul. There's a sentence that's hard to pull off. I again could care less about fidelity to the books when it comes to all this. I very much enjoyed his portrayal of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And he, for me, was one of the shining lights. When I left, I was like, I can't wait to see him again. And not just him, that character in a third movie. I can't wait to see Javier Bardem again. And I hope he starts getting cast correctly and not just, Oh, we think he could play a bit weird. Let's make him be a bit weird.
That's interesting. Did you say because he's in Skyfall as the main villain, and that is a great movie. Like, I'm not saying I definitely understand that he has been miscast on a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
but I would say that Country for Old Men and Skyfall were definitely essentially on the path to this kind of thing. I have gripes about how the character is portrayed, but Bardez is amazing at Stilgar. A lot of the personality of Stilgar gets to come out and stuff like that. In the book, it takes a little bit longer, obviously, because he's still kind of reserved. He's not. The memes have already come out about how much of a fanatic he is, kind of thing. Which I will say I did have a little bit of a problem, but Baldez like knocked it out of the park. Of kind of like he is the roughest character. Like he has to be the roughest character, you know, because he's like our view into a people. And he's great. He like his introduction in the first movie is fantastic. Him walking into the room and just staring down everybody. Like, you know, you've got Duncan Idaho played by which was
Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa. Yeah.
No, yeah, who is known as the best swordsman in the universe. Like he is known as the best swordsman in the universe. Like the Harkonnens are just like they're the best swordsman in the universe. Which is he walks in after being hanging around with him and stares everybody down on that table. Like a person who could just shoot him dead.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't care. He stares everybody down. And that introduction paves the way to what happens in the part 2, which is just a great portrayal. As I said, it's a really good character, which he plays really, really well. Kind of thing.
It's the standout performance for me. It really did blow me away. Now we've only got a few minutes, so I'm gonna give Zendaya her time, Paul. Fine. The hype of I get the promotional tour and I get that Zendaya is a great actress. I didn't leave the cinema thinking, oh, that was the greatest portrayal of what was one of the pivotal and key roles. I think she did well, but at no point was it like a Bardem or even some of the, you know, talking about Florence Pugh with limited screen time or Austin Butler. I don't think she brought the character to life as much for me. I bought the love story, but I didn't care about the love story as much. Whereas I think, you know, if there had just been more to it, because I can care about a love story. I'm a big softie. So I don't know. Your thoughts, because maybe that's something on a second watch I'll get more.
I really enjoyed part 2. It was really, really good. The character of Journey has been screwed over.
Okay, right.
Completely.
Okay, so maybe I know more than I think by accident.
Yeah, the love story is correct. Her, some of the things about her name and stuff like that are correct and stuff like that, and they follow that through. Her skepticism is chucked up to 11 in this, which makes the ending seem really weird. My partner was just like, that character is good to like is that character like, you know, good to do something? And I was like, we need to talk about it a little bit kind of thing. Yeah, they definitely took a different turn for that character. And for me, when you're not even up against like her main person that she was up against in any kind of scenes was Timothée Chalamet. And as we said, he's not the greatest actor in the world, kind of thing. He did impress us by one scene which rewarded us for our worries and stuff like that. But her character didn't get as much as it should have, kind of thing. Like, she is a warrior by her own means. She's very independent and stuff like that. Like, she should have been like the like female version of Stilgar a little bit. Yeah. And we didn't. We got this, you know, I guess like MJ / slightly desert person kind of thing, which I should point out is no slight. No slight on her acting chops, because she's a great actor. It's just that character seemed like they kind of they chose places to focus on, and I think one of the areas that they should have focused on more was their relationship and her kind of story.
There you go, Paul. So, wow, phew, I was sweating that a little bit because I thought I was going to get you railing back in your seat, going, "What are you talking about? You don't know anything. You're crazy." But it looks like I happen to be on the same side of the page for completely, from a place of a lot less knowledge, but just it didn't work as well for me. So, Paul, I think we're going to run over. So let's just run over, not too much, and talk about the real stars of the show, Sandworms. And the reason we have to do this is twofold. Sandworms, 2024, the year of the Sandworm. Beetlejuice 2. We've all the memes are already starting. It's all great. Weirdly, Sandworms meant less to me. I didn't, the riding, the kind of you're finally riding a sandworm. I was like, there was almost something comical at times for me. And I know I am probably in a group of one that everybody else is like, oh, it's the coolest thing and it works so well. I was kind of like, I don't know if it did. I just don't know if it did. And there was a real break for my suspension of disbelief when they're like, yeah, hardest thing in the world to do. You can ride a sandworm. And I'll go with you how you're steering it. I'll go with you not letting it go back underground. But when you're like, now everybody hop on the sandworm, I pulled him over for a minute, and we'll also come to a nice gentle stop where all 50 of you can get back off. My brain kind of went, what the no, this is no. You made a mistake here, right?
So the Sandworms were made really majestic, I think, in the first one. I think they were made of kind of really part of the ecosystem and stuff like that. I think in the second one, they were meant to be more kind of ingrained into the culture of the Fremen and stuff.
Yeah.
They do that better in the David Lynch and the BBC adaptations, I think, a lot better. They also explain why the writing works a lot better. Very quickly as part of the learning kind of thing. Stilgar explains how writing works, and it's in no way kind of like now for a biological lesson. It's more kind of like, look, this is the secret of the sandworms kind of thing, and it's one of the secrets of the sandworms, and it kind of adds to their kind of like legend, I guess would be the best thing. In this one, I did him stalking the sandworm on the ridge kind of thing is great. It is an overall nice scene and stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I do think the majesticness, the majesty of the sandworms and their place in the Fremen culture, as well as their place of ownership over Arrakis, was downplayed a lot more as they focused on other things, kind of thing. I think the important thing for me was part one was very much setting up the environment, the worlds and everything like that. In part two, they did focus more on the story, on the characters and stuff, which means that there wasn't as much time to kind of bring the environments back in and kind of reiterate the planet or the world building kind of thing. So because they keep pointing, one of the biggest things was the navigators, the Navigator Guild, and that's a huge big part of the whole thing. They're literally the people who bring people to other planets. Without them,
why
no
spice
one
is
works.
important.
Yeah, they never come back in this movie. And that's not a spoiler. They, as I said, they focus on different areas and stuff like that. So,
yeah. So, Paul, ending on Sandworms, because we definitely are out of time. Is there anything in the comments that we need to get back to? I want to thank everybody for the great interaction. Tell us what you think about Sandworms, and if you've seen the movie, you'll have the same questions as I do about some of the mechanics of catching that bus and getting off that bus. Yeah.
Sorry, I was reading. I feel like we've just hit an age where everyone expects big name actors they already know and things, and new actors don't get a chance. So TC gets cast and everything just because people have heard of him. I don't think that's true. I think that
I agree with that necessarily.
Yeah, I think Timothée Chalamet is just one of the big names that's going out. I think we've always had this, that big names just get added to. Like we've got Ryan Reynolds was in loads of stuff for ages, kind of thing. which goes, John Krasinski was on the up and up for a lot of stuff, but he also got left behind. Like, I think this is just a phase of that kind of period. Sadly, because there are less movies featuring in the cinema kind of thing, I think it's more apparent of people like who are having this. Florence Pugh is in everything. Like, you know, she's literally been in pretty much the major movies going forward, kind of thing. And so is Timothy Chalamet. But yeah, like, I think we're just focused on
the first thing I ever saw Florence Pugh in was Fighting with My Family, and it was my first reason to ever use Twitter to go, hey, I just saw somebody I've never heard of, and actually went and looked up her name, you know, and waited for the credits. Had no clue. I was like, that's going to be somebody to watch, and turns out it was right. It could have easily been wrong. But I think and Lisa, I get where you're coming from with the comment, and thank you very much for it. We don't have to agree. We just have to talk, so I love it. But Austin Butler would be my example. Up until recently, and probably up until this movie, an awful lot of people would still be calling him Elvis. All the nobodies are nobodies until they become somebodies. And then, yes, the somebodies are used to finance and tentpole. You know what? We've got a movie. Here's our pitch. Also, Ryan Reynolds will do it. Or whatever. Like, that's been the way this has worked for decades. For right or for wrong. And it's how people will go and see things. There's still people getting chances. Austin Butler was nobody, now he's somebody. And now he's actually somebody that is going to be referred to as Austin Butler rather than Elvis. And thank God, the first time he spoke, I was like, yes, you are freed, my friend. You are absolutely freed. Because I'm watching Masters of the Air and really enjoying it. And I almost feel like, you know, if I was on set, I would have gone, just moving another 2 degrees away from sounding. Just another 2 degrees. As far away as you can get, you should always get from your Elvis voice, buddy. Yeah, I get it. Timothy Chalamet's the hot property at the moment, but so are a lot of other people.
Well, we had Tom Holland. Tom Holland was also a hot property for quite a while.
All the Ryans, which is Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, you know,
Chris Pratt, Chris Evans,
the Chris's,
you know. So yeah, it just goes through the cycle of that kind of thing. You know, Florence Pugh right now, Margot Robbie was a big kind of thing. So yeah, like it's just going through that cycle. I will say that on the voice thing, the soundscape thing is amazing. If you listen to Roban, which goes Butler and which goes the Baron, their talking patterns and also kind of like pitch and kind of voices are so greatly kind of similar. Yeah. People are already joking that they're the Pokemon evolution of each other. But
that's brilliant.
It's great.
That's brilliant.
It's really a nice audio way of showing that they are in the same family. Yep. Kind of thing, which is great. So just once again, I have swooned over the audio for this movie,
and as well you should. So Lisa, thank you for anybody's comment that we didn't get to or anything that we haven't covered. Thank you very much. I'm going to go back and read the comments after the show. I'm going to end this on the last one that we have here, Paul, which is, Colm, you're going to go and see this. I only watched the first one the other day. Going to see this next week. Do me a favor. Come back and let us know what you think of it in any form that you like, even if it's just directly and personally. I hope you dig it. Bring your bucket and spade. It is a sandy affair. But I actually think, Paul, we didn't give our thumbs up, thumbs down. You obviously really liked it. I obviously liked it. I think I'll probably really like it at a second watch because I think it was more me than it. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it really is me. Well done, Denis Villeneuve. Let's hope with TV shows and spin-offs, because they're going to do a Bene Gesserit TV show, let's hope they don't try and wring this franchise to death.
They will.
They will. And that we can get enjoyment, and maybe it'll stop when it should. So with all that said, Paul, I have been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
And we've been Here's Out. And we will see you all out there in the dunes riding sandworms. Remember, it's really easy, apparently, to get on and off once you've done it once.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See you later.